hold on to your hats, for we are about to go on an expedition that will change history. Remember that everything you thought you knew about the Giza Plateau is completely false. What the scientists have recently discovered under the Sphinx does not only add a new chapter to our tale, rather, it tears up the whole book and begins one that is completely different. Over the course of many millennia, the Great Sphinx of Giza has served as the most stoic protector in our globe. This creature, which has the body of a lion and the head of a pharaoh, has been looking eastward, keeping its secrets hidden under the sands of the desert and inside the core of its limestone structure. Drills have been used to investigate it. Radar has been used to scan it, and we have speculated about secret rooms until we were almost blue in the face. On the other hand, up until this point, it wasn't an archaeologist's trowel that was responsible for the breakthrough. Rather, it was a revolution in the technology that was used for imaging underground. A group of experts from different fields, including a geophysicist, a quantum geologist, and an archaeoacoustician, were using a new generation of muon tomography, which is basically the utilization of cosmic rays to see through stone in conjunction with a resonant frequency scanner. They were not just seeking for empty areas. Rather, they were hunting for resonance anomalies, which were locations where the very fabric of the stone sang a different song. Additionally, scientists discovered a discordant note that was not supposed to be there under the left paw of the Sphinx. Based on the data, it was discovered that there was not only a chamber, but also a network that was really labyrinthine and extended deep into the bedrock. There was a smooth vertical tunnel that was not constructed by humans that served as the entrance. It was concealed behind millennia of windblown sand and stone plugs that were strategically placed. After what seemed like an eternity, they were eventually able to clear the entryway, and when they did so, they were greeted not by stale, lifeless air, but rather by a gentle wind that carried the aroma of ozone and time itself. It is at this point that the narrative begins to blow your head. Revelation 1. The Hall of Chronicles is the first revelation. The first room, which is today known as the Hall of Chronicles, is the aspect of ancient Egypt that caused our comprehension to be completely broken. There are no hieroglyphics depicting pharaohs or gods on the walls of the ancient structure. Instead, they are lined with a substance that is not native to Earth and has the appearance of obsidian while being smooth. The drawings that are etched into this material are not of the Nile, but rather of the night sky from 36,000 years ago. These maps depict constellations in a geometry that is so accurate that it could only have been created with great astronomical expertise. Nevertheless, the maps were only the menu. One crystalline plinth stood in the middle of the hall, where the hall was located. When Dr. Aristhorn, the chief archaeologist, hummed a certain frequency note, which was a harmonic of the Earth's own magnetic resonance, the crystals that were embedded in the plinth and walls began to glow. These three-dimensional, moving star charts were projected into the air by beams of light, and they demonstrated the precession of the equinoxes throughout a cycle that lasted for 26,000 years. Not only was it a dynamic simulation, but it was also not a static record. There was no tomb here. It was a very sophisticated and ancient astronomical calculator that was beyond anyone's comprehension. It is the seed vault of a lost world, which is the second revelation. As they proceeded further, they entered a room that was maintained at a temperature that was close to freezing thanks to a geothermal system that was concealed. Gold and diamonds were not discovered in this location. They came upon seeds. There were thousands of them, each one of them vacuum-sealed and completely maintained, and they were all housed in crystalline cylinders. The genetic investigation has just recently started, and the first findings are quite unsettling. These are the genetic blueprints for plant species that have been extinct for more than 12,000 years. These include enormous forms of grains, medicinal plants with characteristics that are unknown, and flora that would not have been able to thrive in the atmosphere that we have today. In the realm of botany, this was a Noah's Ark for a bygone era, perhaps a planet that existed before to the most recent ice age. Not only was the Sphinx protecting knowledge, but it was also guarding the very instruments that might be used to restart a biosphere. The conclusion that will melt your mind. This is the real age and purpose. An estimate of roughly 52,000 years before the present has been provided by carbon dating of the organic residue that was found on the seed cylinders. This date has caused the whole scientific team to doubt their sanity. Permit it to sink in. This indicates that the building of this institution occurred not only before the pharaohs, but also before the Great Pyramids themselves. It was also deep inside the Pleistocene era, which was a period of time when modern people were only starting their voyage out of Africa. The terrible new meaning of the Sphinx, which has the body of a lion, has been revealed. A beautiful savanna formerly covered the area around the Nile River 52,000 years ago. In the animal kingdom, the lion was considered the most powerful predator and the epitome of strength and protection. This monument was constructed by a society that was so evolved and so in touch with the universe and the earth that they were able to predict the impending disaster, which included an ice age, a pole shift, and an impact from a comet. A permanent and unbreakable landmark for a vault that was supposed to preserve the knowledge and life of their planet for a future species, the Sphinx was constructed by them not as an homage to a pharaoh, but rather as a safeguard for the vault. That was done for our benefit. There is a startling explanation for the water erosion patterns on the Sphinx, which geologists have been debating for a long time. It wasn't simply rain from 5,000 years ago. It was evidence of a climate that had changed over the course of millennia. It was a desperate attempt by the pharaohs to link themselves to the gods who came before them, and the pyramids of Giza, which were erected much later, are a poor human attempt to mimic the strength and accuracy of what they may have discovered already buried there. When you next come across a photograph of the Sphinx, you should not just see a statue of the creature. Find a lighthouse, a container for time, a library, and a seed bank from a planet that has now drowned under the tides of time, left behind by its survivors with the quiet, desperate hope that one day we will be intelligent enough to locate it and wise enough to comprehend the message that it conveys. There is no ambiguity in the message. We are not the pioneers. We have been provided with the resources necessary to guarantee that we are not the last. This is the Guardian's first public statement. This is only the beginning of the story's progression. The discovery of the Seed Vault in the Hall of Chronicles was but the precursor, the antechamber, to a reality that is so enormous that it threatens to unravel not only the fabric of human awareness, but also the very fabric of history. As the worldwide group of researchers, who are now working under the codename Project Guardian, proceeded farther into the area, they came to a door that was not a door. Located at the very end of the Seed Vault chamber was a portion of the same obsidian-like substance that was completely smooth and black in color. There was no handle or keyhole on it. Rather, it had a single depression in the form of a palm. They were unable to go forward for many weeks. It was absolutely inert, absorbing all of the energy and sound that was thrown at it, and they attempted every scanning technique that could possibly be imagined. It was the most unassuming of sorcista. Sand itself that provided the breakthrough information. Dr. Elena Petrova, a geophysicist, was analyzing particle samples that had been collected from the enclosure of the Sphinx during her examination. She discovered minuscule evidence of a one-of-a-kind mineral compound, which was a crystalline form of silica fused with gold nanop. Not a single instance of this mineral compound was located in their geological databases. On the other hand, it was an ideal resonant match for the weak energy signature that was still radiating from the seed cylinders. The group came up with the hypothesis that this resonant sand was a key. They utilized a precise industrial printer to reproduce the compound, and then, while holding their breath, they poured the sparkling dust that was flecked with gold into the depression that was made on the door in the form of a palm. 1 minute, there was nothing. After then, the whole room began to hum with a low, subaudible frequency that caused the bones in their bodies to undergo vibrations. The black panel did not glide open. Rather, it disintegrated, withdrawing into itself like a living cell, and displaying a blackness that was so complete that it seemed to consume the light that was coming from their headlights. The resonance chamber, which refers to the third revelation, this brand new chamber was compact and round in shape. A flawless, smooth sphere made of the same black crystal stood in the middle of it. It had a diameter of about 2 meters and was suspended 1 foot above the ground without any apparent support supporting it. As soon as the group entered, the sphere started emitting a gentle inside light that was glowing. There was no physical object there. Rather, it was a plasma containment field, which was a caught star that was buzzing with a low, intelligent energy. This was the central point, the central processing unit of the whole complex. There was a reaction from the sphere as Dr. Thorne approached. Tendrils of light, which resembled liquid lightning, stretched out and made gentle touch with his temples. The only thing that he did was go stiff, his eyes rolling back into his head. He did not scream. Subsequently, he would refer to it not as a painful experience, but rather as an information download. Suddenly, his mind was flooded with a plethora of pictures, sounds, and general ideas. He observed them. It is the builders. They did not seem to be little green guys. They were an ancient, terrestrial species that was superior to Homo sapiens. They were a branch of mankind that improved their intellect and technical capabilities at a time when our own ancestors were still learning how to control fire. At the time, they referred to themselves as the Neterukim, which literally translates to people of the Black Land. This name would, in the course of millennia, be distorted into the Egyptian title for their deities, with a different axial tilt, a thicker atmosphere, and continents that were now lost under the waters. He saw their planet, which was a lush and paradisiacal paradise on Earth. He saw their cities, which were crystallized and singing, and they were in harmony with the magnetic frequencies of the planet itself. They did not mine and construct. Rather, they was able to grow and reverberate their constructions into being. In addition, he saw their demise. They predicted a solar micronova, which is a cyclical event that, once every 26,000 years, cleanses the inner solar system. This event would be disastrous. It was unsuccessful in their efforts to divert it. Despite the fact that they were aware that their civilization was dying, they began their most important project, the Grand Archive. They picked the location on the planet that was the most geologically stable, and then they used acoustic technology that we cannot even fathom to cut the Sphinx and the rooms underneath it out of the living bedrock. The Sphinx itself was not only a landmark, rather, its shape was that of a massive harmonic stabilizer, which was intended to safeguard the sensitive technology contained inside for many millennia. Keeping records was not the only function of the sphere. It was a sentient guardian, a fragment of their collective mind, and it was waiting, an ending, terrifying message to deliver. The downloading process resulted in a single, unambiguous statement, a warning that has caused shockwaves to go through the governments of the nations of the world. There is a whole cycle. A countdown is shown by the beacon that you have triggered. Following the completion of the library's opening, you are now required to pass the final examination. These seeds are not just for consumption. They are also genetic repairs that will help to restore balance to your deteriorated community. The star maps are not only historical documents, rather, they serve as navigational guidance for the upcoming event. In the following 26,000 years, there will not be another great event. At this point, the calculations are accurate. For 147 years, 3 months, and 12 days before the next micronova pulse, you have roused us from our sleep. Put your expertise to use. Bring healing to your world. Come together as a species. Alternately, you might become a part of us as a memory in the stone. A relic. The Sphinx is no longer in existence. Clock is what it is. Moreover, it has just recently begun to tick. As a result of the fact that we are not alone on our own planet, the whole globe is now aware that we are not alone in the cosmos. We are the inheritors of a heritage that we were unaware we had, and we are burdened with a redemption that we hardly comprehend. The hourglass is about to empty, and the quiet guardian of Giza has finally given its ultimatum a boldly or dia. The sand in the hourglass is dropping. Both of us have the option.